Print, email, Facebook, Twitter. More analysis. Pauline Hanson is not the only politician feeling the heat as winter hits Canberra. There is a picture of a smiling Pauline Hanson with her Senate team at Parliament House in August 2016. There they all are: Senator Hanson, Brian Burston, Malcolm Roberts, Rod Cullerton, less than 2 years ago, and they are all gone. In between there has been the spectre of Fraser Anning, who was to replace Mr. Roberts, who had fallen foul of Section 44 of the Constitution, coming in, and then going, even before he literally took his seat in the Red Chamber. By Friday, the focus was on whether Peter Giorgio, Mr. Cullerton's replacement and brother-in-law, would also peel off from One Nation. The government was certainly hoping so. Senator Hanson has not just lost individual parliamentarians in this process, of course, but what once appeared as a potentially potent balance of power bloc. She is now down to just 2 votes in the Senate. Pauline Hanson only has herself to blame apparently. None of this is her fault. Media player, space to play, M to mute, left and right to seek, 3900:000:39 When she appeared on Sky on Thursday night, she gave an angry and emotional rant about betrayal and people who wouldn't lift their weight. She apologized to Australians for it all. As well she might, for if there is one thing we know about Pauline Hanson's One Nation, PHON, from all the documenting of its past internal travails, all the accounts from members with whom she has fallen out, she insists on running the party that carries her name. So if the party is plagued by a run of people who don't work, she has no one but herself to blame. It is fine to say this is the normal territory of small parties, but that should not detract from, by her own account, the spectacularly bad run of parliamentarians Senator Hanson has inflicted on both federal and state parliaments. In particular, if she has problems with Senator Burston, she should hardly be surprised. In 2003, Senator Burston, the party's then state treasurer, took One Nation to court after he was dumped from #1 spot on the NSW upper house ticket to make way for the wife of the party's then Svengali, David Oldfield. If we look beyond the ever-shifting shape of the One Nation Player Lunch Club, however, the significance of Senator Burston's defection this week must be how it will play out in the by-elections due to take place on July 28, particularly the by-election in the Queensland seat of Longman. There has to be a good chance that all the melodrama is unlikely to impress voters, just as One Nation spectacularly imploded, just when it seemed to be finally riding a wave of electoral invincibility, ahead of the West Australian state elections early last year. In the Senate, the change in funds numbers is still not enough to guarantee the coalition can get its company tax cuts through. But if the parliament sits through until a 2019 election, it certainly gives the wily Senate leader, Matthias Cormann, a lot more options to play with on other issues. One Nation not the only party with internal struggles. There are just 2 more sitting weeks left before the winter break though. Perhaps for everyone's good, everyone has gone back to their electorates for a fortnight before this final bit of brutality. Maybe it is something about the encroaching Canberra winter that makes all the inhabitants of Canberra a bit jangly. But this week finished with the unpleasantness meter cranked up to 11.5 all round. It isn't just One Nation that is having internal struggles at the moment. Of course, unpleasant pre-selection battles are underway all over the country within the coalition, with everyone from women MPs to veteran Queensland senators under threat, and with Tony Abbott popping his head up to threaten retribution if any of his mates are challenged. And in Parliament, it wasn't just that the health minister had been yelling at small-town mayors. In question time, ministers were canvassing rape charges against union officials, to the IRA Speaker Tony Smith, and colourful quotes about death threats. Labour MPs were parroting focus group findings by referring to the Prime Minister repeatedly as this arrogant and out-of-touch former investment banker of a Prime Minister, and even recycling questions about the collapse of high real battles to revolve around tax. But the real battles over legislation are now shaping up for 2 weeks' time, and these will all revolve around tax. And just how they will play out is, for once, really unclear. The government says it intends bringing its company tax package back to the Senate for a vote, unless the 2 Centre Alliance senators, Sterling Griff or Patrick, or Tim Storer, or Darren Hinch change their minds. and it certainly isn't clear that is going to happen, that will be defeated. Will company tax changes pass the Senate? Votes 076135440 Blocktree Set Coalition, 31 yes no undecided Labour, 26 yes no undecided Greens, 9 yes no undecided One Nation, 2 yes no undecided One Nation, Brian Burston, 1 yes no undecided Centre Alliance, 2 yes no undecided David Leyonhelm, 1 yes no undecided Fraser Anning, 1 yes no undecided Corey Bernardi, 1 yes no undecided Tim Storer, 1 yes no undecided Darren Hinch, 1 yes no undecided. 76 senators are expected to vote on this bill, 39 votes are required to pass this bill. 38 votes are required to block this bill. What the government would do then is even less clear. But the even bigger uncertainties surround the budget income tax package. It would be no small thing for Labour to vote down some or all of these tax cuts. Despite a famous Labour threat to do so a few years ago, it never happened, so this would really be a first. Labour figures admit that the opposition hasn't decided exactly what it will do on the tax cuts, and that it won't finally decide until Parliament returns. There is a quick inquiry into the tax cuts which will hold a hearing next week. Then the questions will be, will the Senate succeed in splitting the bill so that it can just vote on the first and second stages of the proposed tax cuts and vote down, or not vote on, the third stage of cuts for high-income earners which are not even due to come into force for years? No one is sure how the numbers sit in the Senate on the possibility of getting the bill split. If it is not split, there are a few options for Labour. It could support the whole package to ensure they get to lower-income workers, but pledge to amend the cuts in office. This would have the advantage of also keeping the focus and contention on the different positions of the parties on company tax. Alternatively, it could try to amend the tax cuts, apart from the third stage of the cuts. It has also signalled it has problems with the second stage of the cuts too, even in this colourful parliament, where no one seems aligned to anyone for any length of time anymore. The last two sitting weeks offer genuine surprises galore. Laura Tingle is 7.30's chief political correspondent. Print, email, Facebook, Twitter.